March 29th, 2021, Sony announced that they would be shutting down the ability to purchase games digitally on the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita, and would also be shutting down what's left of the store on PSP. As somebody who's both a Persona fan and a games preservationist, this is really bad news. Most of the mainline games aren't accessible on modern platforms, and go for large sums of money on auction sites such as eBay. The PlayStation stores on PS3 and PS Vita are a cheap and easy way for fans to play these games legally, and to see the only affordable option potentially vanishing would be a massive disappointment. Thankfully, on April 19th, 2021, Sony reverted their decision, but this still had me thinking about how most of the Persona games are impossible to play on modern platforms by legal means. The first Persona game was released in 1996 for the PlayStation, and got a physical PC release in the year 1999. A year after Persona PC's release, they released the second half of the sequel, Eternal Punishment. The first game and the 2 duology all got remasters for the PSP, although the remaster for Eternal Punishment was never localized outside of Japan. All of these versions have become difficult to find and demand steep prices. It has become harder to preserve physical copies of this game, as disc rot is prevalent with CDs from that era and it's impossible to repair it once it happens. Luckily for people who were unwilling to shell out the big bucks for the game, they were made available in the PlayStation stores for both PS3 and PS Vita, all for affordable prices. What if you were like me and don't have a PS3 or Vita, but you had a 360 that generation? Well, we currently are out of luck since it's unlikely that most of these games will ever get re-released due to assorted reasons. Persona 3 was released for the PlayStation 2 in 2006 through 2008. The PS3 was already known about by the time P3 was released in Japan, and it was already out by the time of the North American and European releases. In 2007 through 2008, Atlus re-released an enhanced version of the game titled Persona 3 FES, which added a new epilogue story. Fast forward a few years, and Atlus would bring the game to the PSP under the name Persona 3 Portable. These games all came out late in their respective systems' lifespans, but were thankfully playable on their successors due to backwards compatibility and digital storefronts. To this day, PS3 and PS Vita are still considered the best place to play the entire Persona series since all of the mainline games are playable on them in some form or way. But again, maybe you don't have a PS3 and you don't want to buy one just for 4 games. Maybe you want a handheld version of P3 that doesn't strip the game down to its core. Well, until Atlus decides to port the mainline Persona series to more platforms, we're just left to wait. Persona 4 was also a late PlayStation 2 game, as it came out in 2008 through 2009. However, it still sold well for the series at launch. The game got a re-release in 2012 through 2013 for the PlayStation Vita, and was considered a selling point for the console. Hell, I almost bought a Vita in 2017 just for this, Minecraft, and the 20 FPS port of Borderlands 2. In 2016 through 2017, Atlus released Persona 5, which was a massive success. This led to spin-offs, guest appearances, and a re-release in 2019 through 2020 with the subtitle Royal. These games are the most accessible games in the franchise, as Persona 4 Golden received a PC port in 2020, and Persona 5 Royal can be played on both PS4 and PS5. While I highly doubt that Persona 4 will become as inaccessible as its predecessors are, Persona 5 is in a different case. In 2021, it was discovered that if the CMOS battery dies in a PS3, 4, or 5, or if a console can't connect to Sony's servers for trophy data, the entire console loses its ability to play games both physically and digitally, and pretty much just becomes a large Blu-ray player that sometimes can't play CDs. This is incredibly bad for game preservation, as this means many PlayStation games that don't have ports on other platforms will become impossible to play legally. I hate to end this video on a downer note, but the preservation of a Persona franchise is in a bad spot. It's insanely weird for an RPG franchise that's as popular as Persona to have games that are harder to access than the entire Kingdom Hearts franchise these days. I know that many PlayStation fans are against the idea of this game coming to anything that's not a PlayStation or a computer, but these games need to be made available everywhere to ensure the preservation of the franchise's legacy. I'm sure Switch owners would love to be able to play the mainline games of the franchise was represented in Smash, and I bet a lot of people would play the games on Game Pass and become new fans of the franchise if it was made available there. Who knows, maybe these games will become accessible again someday, since it is the 25th anniversary. You never know.